Good afternoon, everyone who's involved in this meeting. I'd like to welcome you, and those of you who don't know me, my name's Ray Bailey from AIOFP. I'm the Manager Member Services. No doubt most of you I have met. This is part of a partnership between Harvey Norman Business Technology and ourselves. And the reason we've entered into this partnership is we think the whole issue of cybersecurity is so important for your advice businesses. And increasingly, we're seeing attacks on businesses all across the spectrum of different types, but more significantly on financial planning and accounting businesses. So it just reinforces the need to have appropriate mechanisms in place to ensure you're not one of those that's being hacked. And it's just not about having cyber insurance. It's much more than that. And what we hope, this series of webinars, which will go through to next year, and we'll publish the dates for the subsequent seminars next week, or webinars next week. But the partnership is important to us, not only because of the issues involved, the cybersecurity issue and the increasing awareness of the numbers of scammers out there trying to attack your business, but also this introduces, as part of the partnership, some features which we think are very important. One is the education via the webinars, and there'll be various articles produced and circulated to you, which will assist you in making you aware of the cybersecurity issues and developments in that space. But also, part of the arrangement is there'll be all members will have access to a cybersecurity risk assessment, which is a complimentary service and generally valued at around $500. So you're getting that as part of the partnership agreement. And we encourage you to take advantage of that because it just might point out some of the inadequacies that we all have in our business. And I might say the AIOFP itself is going through that process in a couple of weeks' time. So we're prepared to do it, and we think you should as well. And it's I don't think it's a particularly lengthy process, but it might give you some comfort that you're on the right track as far as this very important matter is concerned. So, look, without further ado, I'm happy to introduce Rutland Smith. Now, Rutland is an expert in this cyber security space, been around, I understand, for a long time, in spite of his youthful looks. And Rutland's going to take you through this presentation over the next hour. If we have questions, happy to accommodate those during the presentation. And obviously, if you have them subsequently, then we'll respond to those as well. But clearly, if you have some issue that you think needs to be answered straight away, or you'd like the answer straight away, we'll respond immediately. So with no further input from me, I'm happy to introduce Rutland. And also, I think on the call is Caroline Jones, who I deal with who's the partnership manager, if you like, and she's with us as well. So Rutland, happy to hand over to you.
Thank you, Ray. I really appreciate the invitation to meet with your members today, and appreciate the lovely introduction. I usually start by explaining to people that I'm from Harvey Norman, but I'm not here to sell you a TV or a furniture or the things you normally expect from Harvey Norman in a retail environment. Harvey Norman Technology for Business has been around now for about 6 or 7 years, and we're a different part of Harvey Norman. We specialise in providing IT solutions to small to medium businesses, and that's obviously important because you want to know that we actually know what we're talking about. And we manage kind of thousands of businesses around Australia, and we sort of get to see a lot of what's going on from both a security and a support point of view, which enables us to provide the type of training and conversations that we're going to have today. And I'm also going to sort of say up front, I apologise that I'm going to be a little bit scary at times, and sometimes I get accused of making people feel a bit uncomfortable about their cyber safety. But the reality is, what I'm presenting are the facts, and the environment in terms of cybersecurity is a bit scary, and it's not sort of me trying to scare you, it's me making you aware of what the reality is out there. And as Ray said, really encourage you to ask questions. There's a spot in the Q&A section for you to type them in as you go along, and we will stop and answer those questions as best as we can. And one of the things that I wanted to start with is an article from yesterday, and I think it's really pertinent to this audience because yesterday a fairly prominent cyber criminal organisation called SafePay Ransomware published on the dark web that they had breached a financial services firm, and that they had the financial data of their clients available for either publication or for sale on the dark web. And we'll go through an exercise in a moment, but I want you to kind of think about how would you feel if that was your firm? How would you feel if that was you in that article, if it was you having to ring your clients and say, hey, I've been breached, and as a result of that, your financial information is now in the hands of cyber criminals? Because a lot of people think about cybersecurity in terms of trying to meet the compliance requirements, and I think whilst that's important, I think the number one reason to get your cybersecurity right is because you want to protect your clients and you want to protect your business. There's a number of very basic steps that businesses can take that will significantly improve their cybersecurity stance and significantly reduce the risks of cybersecurity being successful. And I think the key reason you do that is because you want to protect your clients. I'm assuming that most people in the financial planning business have a lot of clients because you've spent a significant amount of time building trust and building relationships. And a cyber attack can be really, very, very harmful to that reputation that you've built and that trust that you've built with your clients. The other interesting thing about this attack and the firm involved, I genuinely feel sorry for them. I haven't named them. I don't want to embarrass them. But the other interesting thing about this attack is it's a reasonably small firm based in a regional town in New South Wales. It's a town with a population, I think, in the vicinity of about 20,000 people. And I think that's quite important because sometimes people make the assumption that only the big guys get attacked. My business isn't big enough for the criminals to worry about. And unfortunately, that assumption is a very dangerous and it's a mistaken assumption going forward. So I'm going to share a bit of information with you. It's going to scare you a little bit, but then I'm going to talk to you about some of the things you can do to really reduce those risks going forward. And hopefully we can end on a positive note, which is, yes, there's a threat to the business, but yes, there's a solution. And that's where we're going to go along the way. And as I said, please keep asking questions. Let's start with a short video just to get off with a little bit of scary stuff.
You don't need to be a hacker anymore. Today, cybercrime is sold like software. subscription plans, customer support, even money-back guarantees. With just one click, the clock starts ticking on your business. The target isn't a bank. It's not the government. It's businesses like yours. Real estate offices, allied health clinics, bookkeepers. Every day, small businesses are in the crosshairs. A simple email, an innocent click. That's all it takes for the walls to come down. 15 minutes. That's all it took for your entire digital world to be locked away. Accounting software, inaccessible. Clients, waiting. Your business, paralyzed. Recovery. That can take weeks. The financial impact. Often hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not just downtime. There are regulatory obligations, legal exposure, and the heavy price of lost client trust. Your reputation is on the line. Once that trust is broken, it's incredibly hard to rebuild. Cybercrime is industrialized, but so is defense. Security isn't just about software, it's about resilience. The question isn't if criminals can buy attacks. The question is, are you prepared when they do? Cyber resilience starts now.
My favourite staff member, and that's because she works for free. She works 24 hours a day and she never takes sick leave. And that, of course, is because she's an AI avatar. She's not a real person. But amazing what you can produce now, using AI. And that's relevant to today as well, right? Because AI are making the cyber attacks significantly more complicated and sophisticated. So let's talk a little bit about mindset. And one of the things that we say in our industry is that cyber attacks are inevitable. Everyone is going to get attacked at some point. You might be the one who's going to get attacked tomorrow. You might be the one who's not getting attacked for another 5 years. The key thing is preparation. If you prepare for an attack, then that is going to be the difference between that attack being successful and having quite a significant impact on your business, or being unsuccessful and really being of little to no impact on your business going forward. And it's all about the preparation. And we'll continue to talk about what that preparation is and why that should happen. But one of the things we also like to share is that if you think cybercrime is committed by 14-year-old kids wearing hoodies like you see in the movies, you couldn't be further from the truth. The reality is this year globally, cybercrime will turn over $10 trillion globally. I want to repeat that, 10 trillion, not billion, $10 trillion globally. And when there's that kind of money involved, you can guarantee that large, sophisticated cyber gangs are really the people who are getting involved. Think people like the mafia, Eastern European crimes, South American drug cartels. These are the kinds of large multinational organizations that are now implementing cybercrime and attacking businesses all around the world. And this really astounded me when I found out that it actually, if they were a country, cybercrime would be the world's third largest economy. And they're actually so sophisticated. There's a screenshot there of they actually track their market share. So just like, a legitimate business like insurance or selling computers or whatever, cybercrime is run by very sophisticated multinational organizations. And that's relevant because if you underestimate the enemy, that's when you can really get in trouble. And the enemy isn't 14-year-old kids like you see in the movies. The enemy is quite sophisticated cyber criminal organizations. It's not unusual when someone gets attacked that you find you're dealing with multiple departments of the organization. You might be dealing with the negotiating department of the organization. Meanwhile, you can go and deal with the help desk and you dial a number and you get a call center somewhere in the Philippines or India, and you're talking to someone who's explaining to you in a very helpful manner, this is how you can pay your ransom using cryptocurrency. It's crazy. It's no different to ringing up your Telstra or Microsoft and talking to one of their helplines. The only difference is you're talking to a criminal organisation that have set up their own helpline. The other statistics that I wanted to share with you today are really all about clearing up the myth that cybercrime only happens to large organisations. Yes, generally the media only focus on cyber crimes that happen in large organisations. So you hear about Optus and Medibank and all of these sorts of things. But the reality is last year, the statistics from the federal government, so very reliable statistics, last year 43% of cyber crimes in Australia targeted businesses with less than 20 staff, 0 to 20 staff. So 43% of cyber crimes last year were against small business. And the reasoning behind that is actually quite interesting. The criminals are clever. They've got, that business approach to making money out of cybercrime. And what they have worked out is that small businesses contain sensitive information, but unlike the bigger organisations, small businesses generally don't have very good cybersecurity protection. So in some ways, the criminals view small businesses as the low-hanging fruit. It's literally easier to attack. And sometimes I use the analogy, that there's no point trying to break into the bank with all of the security that a bank has when you walk down the street and everybody's left their front door and their windows unlocked. You might as well go and rob all of the houses. And that's how they think, and that's why this happens so often. And it's important, particularly if you're running a business and you've previously thought, I'm too small for someone to attack, it's important that you don't make that assumption. The second thing is, you guys are in the financial industry, is you really understand risk analysis. And one of the most important things in cyber security is you've got to analyze the risk in terms of what are the potential costs, what are the potential damages, what are the potential damages, and what are the likelihoods of the various risks that occur. And when it comes to damages, a lot of people are surprised to realize that for small business, the average cost last year was $56,600 for a cyber breach. So I don't know how many people have got $50,000 sitting in an accrual account in case they get attacked. But if you get attacked, that is the average cost, and that is for small businesses. That is for businesses with less than 20 staff. And once again, very reliable statistics published by the Australian Cyber Security Centre, who are part of the Australian Signals Directorate, who are part of the federal government. So it's not a statistic from a commercial organisation, it's a federal government statistic. And as you can imagine, when a business is attacked, both the cost to fix the problem and then the cost to the reputation and the loss of customers, it can be quite dramatic. And what we're seeing in the US is that 60% of small businesses close within 6 months of a cyber attack. We haven't measured it in Australia, but I've no doubt it'll be a very similar number. But they are measuring it in the US. That's from Forbes magazine, that particular statistic. And it kind of puts things in perspective. If you have a major cyber attack, then you've got a better chance of going bankrupt than you have of continuing to exist as a business. So it is literally an existential threat. And I did say, I'm going to say some stuff that's fairly scary, but these are facts. These are not opinions, they're facts. And it puts to my mind the perspective of what the risks are with cybersecurity, very clear and squarely on the table, which is it's quite a significant risk to your business moving forward. And there's so much happening. There's some statistics we did over a 30-day period. It's a few months old now. The numbers have since gone up. But just for our customers alone, we blocked 4,938 attempts at malware. We blocked 73,000 emails out of 228,000 emails that was processed. We blocked 73,000 of them. And I think one of the more interesting statistics on this is we found 547 advanced email threats. And we classify advanced email threats as the kind of attacks that won't get picked up unless you're using specialized IT tools. It's the kind of attack that will get through most average defenses, and it's the sort of stuff that really you've got to have the right skill set to be able to attack. So there's a lot going on, and there's also a significant amount of it that is quite sophisticated. And in your industry, unfortunately, you are in the top 2 most attacked industries in the world. It doesn't matter what country you look at. Health and finance come first or second, depending on the country. And it's because the criminals place a lot of value on sensitive information. And I think one of the other myths we like to dispel from the start is people often have this view that everything's in the cloud, so it's safe. You know, if my information's sitting in Microsoft 365 or Xero or MYOB or some other kind of cloud product, they're responsible for the security. And that's partly right, but not 100% right. The number one form of attack last year was credential theft. And what credential theft is the hackers will try and compromise your device. Once again, they see the small business as the weak link. If they can compromise your device, then they'll steal your password to the cloud software. And then they don't have to hack into Xero or Microsoft or one of those big guys. They just log in using real credentials and steal your information. So you can't assume because everything's in the cloud that it's just safe. Unfortunately, there's a level of responsibility that you have to take to protect your own devices so that those credentials do not get compromised. And as we saw in the video earlier, it's literally got to the point now where anybody can go and buy hacking as a service on the dark web. So you don't even have to know how to be a hacker anymore. The criminals have started selling their services to anybody who's happy to pay for it. So it's just a massive industry. And I spoke earlier about that poor company that got compromised yesterday. We very much talk about cybersecurity as a trauma. And that's because when we have been involved with people who've had breaches, when they've called us in after the fact, in every instance, we find what they're going through is very similar to a trauma. And I want to walk you through a realistic scenario to give you a sense of what might happen one day. And just for a moment, think of me as the bad guy. I'm the criminal, I'm the hacker. And the first thing I'm going to do is hack your device. There's many ways that I can do that. The easiest is to send you an email and get you to click on a link, but there's many other ways that I can do that. As a hacker, the average amount of time spent watching the victim is estimated to be approximately 3 months. So the hackers don't just dive in and act impulsively. They spend 3 months studying you. They effectively are studying their prey. And during that 3 months, they're gathering information like all of your passwords. They're registering themselves through a multi-factor authentication token. And they're trying to work out what's the best way to make money from your business. You know, depending on the business, there are different ways a criminal might behave. If you're processing lots of $500,000 invoices, then let's get in there and change the bank records on your invoices and get customers to pay those large amounts into the criminal's bank account. If you're not processing lots of large invoices, but you've got really sensitive information, for example, you might be a psychologist who's got lots of very sensitive patient records, then the way you make money out of that as a hacker is you steal the information and you extort the clients. You don't extort the psychologist, you go and extort the clients because they're the people who want to keep their information secret. So they're smart and they develop a very detailed plan, including several contingencies. And they operate just like any large multinational organization. They operate with a lot of strategy. And generally, the last person to know that they're there is you. They then take you completely by surprise and they try to make sure that there's maximum urgency and maximum leverage so that they can maximize their return on the hack. So in this scenario, you have 72 hours to react. Now, remember, in this scenario, I, the criminal, have hacked your business. I've worked out you've got really sensitive financial information. I've said the best way to make money here is to extort the money from your clients. So imagine your clients getting an email like this. All right, I'm writing to inform you we've gained full access to your system because of XYZ financial planner being breached. Here's an example of some of the information so that you know that it's true. Here's the threat. I'm going to publicly, put your financial information out there. Unless you pay a ransom of $10,000 within 72 hours. All right, and these are the sorts of things that we see. These are the sorts of things that happen, and I want you to really think about the fact this email doesn't go to you; it goes to your clients. So you go to work one day and next thing you start getting all of these strange phone calls from clients. I've just received this email, what's going on? And that is the first that you know that anything has happened. How do you think that's going to feel? How do you think you're going to react in that sort of scenario? And look, it happens every day. You don't always hear about it with the smaller ones, but it happens every day. One of the worst ones I've come across was involving psychologists. The hackers breached several thousand small psychology clinics in Finland in this instance. They demanded each of the clients pay a ransom, just like the email I just showed you. And they got away with, I think, about $10 million. But even more scarily, a number of people took their life as a result of the threat, because just the very thought of their psychologists' conversations becoming publicly available was too much for them to cope with. So, this is a really horrible example of just how ruthless the hackers are, right? And it's happening more and more, as you can see there in that heading. Approximately 3/4 of Aussie mortgage brokers have now been impacted by scam or fraud. So it's happening all over the place. So that's the scary part. Let's now talk about what you can do about it. And the first thing I will say to you is you have to think about cybersecurity in terms of risk. If anybody says to you, I can make sure that you'll never be hacked, they're not telling you the truth. So cybersecurity is about risk mitigation. There are no guaranteed results in cybersecurity. It's like any risk mitigation strategy. You can do everything you want to make your workplace safe, but there's always a chance that there might still be an accident. There's always that small chance that might happen. And I'm thinking about physical safety in this example. Cybersecurity is no different to physical safety. And just like any risk mitigation strategy, you look at what are the things I can do to reduce the risk, what are the things I can do to reduce the damages if something does happen, right? And you can't think about it as an IT issue. Cybersecurity is about people, it's about processes, it's more than just IT. Sometimes I say to people, that there's a mistaken assumption that IT covers everything in IT. And I use the analogy, it's kind of like assuming that every lawyer knows everything about every law. When we all know with lawyers that there's family lawyers, there's contract lawyers, there's criminal lawyers. You're not going to get a family lawyer to do a really complicated merger and acquisition piece of work. Equally, you're not going to get a merger and acquisitions guy to do family law. IT is very similar. You know, you can be a programmer, you can be an architect, you can be great at IT support. Doesn't mean you're any good at cybersecurity. They're different disciplines within the organisation. So you've got to treat it as a business risk and not just an IT risk. And people say to me, well, why are compliance laws becoming tougher and tougher? And I imagine a lot of you saw the recent announcement from ASIC where they wrote an open letter to anybody with a financial securities license talking about the fact that it's really important that they get their cybersecurity right because they've got some major concerns about the level of cybersecurity in the industry. And it's growing in terms of compliance and requirements, and nobody likes that. You know, I'm a business owner. The last thing I like is more red tape. But it's growing because when someone's information does get leaked, the victims are demanding that the government does something about it. You know, there's a screenshot there, Choice magazine, after the Optus and the Medibank breach, they did a lot of lobbying of the government to say you need tougher privacy laws because when people are impacted, it's quite significant. And if people are impacted because businesses have not made the effort to build the right level of cybersecurity, they should be held accountable. And so you're seeing a lot more happening from a regulation point of view. I'll keep moving because I'm a little behind. Obviously, in financial services, you are a heavily regulated industry, and a lot of the regulations are not simply related to cybersecurity. A lot of those regulations cover a broad spectrum of activities, but they almost all these days can carry requirements to meet certain cybersecurity expectations. And we've even started to see some recent cases in the courts. ASIC have certainly intensified scrutiny on cybersecurity. They've seem for some reason to be particularly focused on the financial industries, and they've made a few comments lately which I think are really relevant. You know, cybersecurity is no longer optional. It is fundamental to financial integrity. Organisations must maintain vigilant oversight of cybersecurity controls, and you can read the rest when you get a copy of the slides later. But they're really pushing it hard, and this sort of recently culminated in a case of ASIC versus FIG Securities. FIG Securities were breached. A lot of people's financial records were made public, and basically the court found that FIG Securities had not taken reasonable steps to protect their client data, and as a result of that, they issued FIG Securities with a $2 million fine. Now, when you look at what they weren't doing, it would have been significantly cheaper to just have implemented the steps in the first place. You know, it doesn't cost $2 million to have monitored firewalls, to make sure you're patching operating systems, to provide mandatory staff training. It doesn't cost you anywhere near that to make the right level of investment in protecting your clients' very valuable data. So let me talk to you a little bit about how this works.
Small businesses are now one of the main targets for cyber criminals. Why? Because attackers know many smaller organisations don't have the right protections in place. In Australia, the federal government, through the Australian Cyber Security Centre, or ACSC, has developed the Essential 8 Cyber Security Framework. It sets out the minimum cyber security practices every business is expected to follow. This isn't optional. If you handle customer information, financial records, or health data, you are legally required to put these protections in place. So, what is the Essential 8? It's a practical checklist of 8 strategies designed to stop the most common cyber attacks. These include things like keeping software and apps updated, using multi-factor authentication, regularly backing up data, and limiting who has administrator access. Each step makes it harder for hackers to get in and easier for your business to recover if something does go wrong. Without these controls, you could face serious consequences, lost data, damaged reputation, financial losses, and even legal penalties if client information is breached. The Essential 8 isn't about ticking boxes, it's about protecting your business and your customers. The ACSC has resources to help you understand and apply the framework. Taking action now is the best way to stay secure and meet your obligations under Australian law.
So I'm just going to try a little exercise in interactivity. If you look at your screen, there's a React button up on the top ribbon. And this is where you're able to post a thumbs up or a love heart or something like that. If you think your business is currently 100% compliant with the Essential 8 risk mitigation framework, post a reaction emoji so I can see how many people feel like they're 100% compliant. Yep, nobody. Now let's try ask the question a different way. If you've never heard of the Essential 8 before today, post an emoji so I can see how many people are only hearing about it for the very first time ever. Look at that, quite a few people. And look, I want to reassure you that you're not alone. We do these presentations all the time, and in my experience, most people aren't aware of the Essential 8 risk mitigation framework, and they're not aware of their obligations. I like to talk about the Essential 8 for a couple of reasons, and we'll go into some detail today. We'll go in a lot more detail in future. But the reasons I like to talk about it are, firstly, it's actually a pretty good set of recommendations. It was first developed in 2017. They refined it every year. It's done by very well qualified people in the Australian Signals Directorate. And you need to think about these. These are the people who are sitting there fighting off, China and North Korea and Iran cyber attacks on Australia and on our infrastructure. So they're very smart people, but it's also been done in a way where it's designed for businesses. So it's practical and it works, and it's not overkill. It's not, we're not trying to make every small business have military grade cyber protection. The second thing is it's objective. It's literally from the government. It's not from some big American organization trying to flog you their product. It's objective. And then the third reason I like to talk about it is every time a cybersecurity issue has gone to court, the courts have used the Essential 8 as the framework for which they determine whether or not a business has taken reasonable steps. So they look at, has the business made an effort to implement the suggestions in the Essential 8? And so I think that's 3 very good reasons to look at the Essential 8. And it's basically the risk mitigation framework that we have built our solution around and our business around, because we think it's the right solution for businesses, whether they're, sole traders or, our biggest customer's got 300 staff. It doesn't seem to matter. It basically is the right strategy. And I'll talk briefly about it, but I'm not going to go into it in detail today. As you can imagine, a cybersecurity risk mitigation framework is great bedtime reading because it's going to put you to sleep. And it's probably going to confuse you because a lot of it's quite technical in nature. It's called the Essential 8 because there are 8 key categories. Like any risk mitigation framework, under each of those categories, there are then a number of controls. So depending on the size of your business and the nature of the information you hold, it can be up to about 140 different recommended controls. And that's everything from simple things like password hygiene through to much more complicated things like ensuring that you're never working out of a computer that has administrative rights. There's a whole range of very practical suggestions that are in there. And to give you some sort of indication of the complexity, I grabbed a spreadsheet that our technicians use when they onboard a new customer. Sorry, not staff, a new customer. And I just did a little screen recording of me scrolling through that checklist that they go through. And I don't expect you to understand or follow any of this. I'm more just trying to give you some insight into the level of complexity of the framework, which then provides you with significantly less risk of a cybersecurity breach being successful and significantly less chance of a successful breach causing any serious or significant damage. And as you can see, I'm going to pause that because it's still going. It just goes on and on and on in terms of the checklist that we follow. The important thing to understand is there's an expectation today that you are being compliant with the Essential 8. It's part of your legal duty to protect the sensitive information that you hold. And despite the fact that they haven't done a great job making people aware of it, it is actually a requirement. So if you were breached tomorrow and it came down to a legal case, the courts would ask, what steps have you taken to implement the Essential 8 risk mitigation framework? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Harvey Norman Technology for Business. And I want to start by saying that Ray mentioned right at the beginning that because of this strategic partnership, you are entitled to a free cybersecurity risk assessment, and that cybersecurity risk assessment will be done based on the Essential 8 framework. It's quite a significant document. It doesn't take a lot of time. It takes about 1 hour of your time. It's done by a cybersecurity engineer. It's not done by a salesperson. It's done by someone who is an expert in the field of cybersecurity. And at the end of it, you will get basically like an audit. Here are all of the controls. Here are the ones you passed. Here are the ones you failed. And then recommendations as to what are the most important ones to fix first. What are the critical issues to fix? Then the medium and then the low priority. All right. And I want to start kind of by telling you that, because as I'm talking about our business and what we do, I want you to understand that when we do these assessments for you, they will be very comprehensive and they will give you that baseline of, okay, this is where I'm currently at, so that you can then make decisions about what you want to do to start meeting some of these expectations. As I said earlier, Harvey Norman sell lots of fridges and couches, and occasionally we run really loud TV ads. I'm sure some of you have heard our jingle, but I'm not from that part of Harvey Norman. I'm from the part which does technology services and security. And the way I like to kind of explain what we do is we made a strategic decision some years ago that we wanted to make big business IT capabilities available to small businesses. And the way I think about it is we basically looked at, well, how do big businesses do IT? And they have a big IT department, and that IT department, does everything. They do the backup, they do the recovery, they do the security, they manage the emails. And anyone who's worked in a big organization knows what I'm talking about. And when you look at a big organization's IT department, they're generally doing that for multiple different departments, and they're generally doing that for multiple different sites. If I just think about Harvey Norman IT. You know, they're working with 200 sites around the country. They're working with 20,000 staff, and they're working with many, many, many different departments. You know, the finance, accounting, HR, and the list goes on, sales, marketing, etc. And so what we sort of said was, well, if we can do it for many different departments, why can't we do the same thing but just do it for many different businesses? And that's what we built. We built an IT department that treats other businesses just like they're a part of our business, and provides them with a big business IT from as little as $49 a month. Right? And I want to demonstrate to you an example of that by showing you this short clip about our help desk. So all of our customers get the H for Harvey Norman help logo put on the bottom right-hand corner of their computer. When they need help, they can click on it, as you've just seen, and they can start chatting to one of our 200 different technicians. We have 200 different technicians in our IT support team. They are trained on everything you can imagine, and they have to get reaccredited every year. So it's a very highly resourced team who are, you know, I sometimes like to contrast with your local IT provider who might be just one guy with a couple of offsiders. This is not like that. This is 200 different people. You click the chat button, you connect to a technician on average within 2 minutes. That's the average, sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little shorter, but on average 2 minutes. And those engineers are able to remotely access your computer and fix whatever your problem is for you. So they do not try to talk you through how to fix it. They remotely access it and fix it for you. This exactly the sort of service you would expect from a big IT department if you're working for a big organization. And this is just one example of the quality of what we do. You know, for all of our customers, we monitor and action security alerts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through our Security Operations Center, which is another big team, completely separate to our help desk team. And we do that 365 days of the year. Why we do that? Well, because criminals are smart. One of the most highly active times for hackers around the world, believe it or not, is Christmas Eve. You know, hackers have worked out everybody's at home, nobody's at work. So if I can break in, I've got more time and less likelihood anyone's going to watch me, and I can do a lot of damage in that time. So it's a big business IT capacity, but it's available at small business prices. So some of you probably be wondering, how do I claim that cyber assessment? It's on the page now. Please grab your phone and take the QR code or take a photograph of the website. And Caroline has also just posted the link into the chat. So you can get access to that very, very easily. It's not just there to book the cyber assessment. We have built a page dedicated to your organisation. There are videos, there are articles, there are tips and tricks. There's a whole range of helpful information there to try and help you learn more about cybersecurity. Plus, of course, you can book your free cyber assessment. So please take advantage of that. You know, we want to be in partnership with our customers, no different to the way most people have a long-term relationship with a financial planner. You know, I've had the same accountant and the same lawyer for nearly 20 years. You want to have the same, we want to have that same sort of relationship and be that IT department that allows you to kind of focus on what you do and work with confidence that your IT and your security is being taken care of. So I wanted to finish 10 minutes early for questions. Thank you for listening, and I'm just going to open up the floor. We really encourage questions, so please move ahead. And I think, Ray, you've already got a couple in the chat, so...
Yeah, there are a couple there.
So we'll start with question here from Wayne. How do you differ from the various IT service providers that put in place cybersecurity systems? Good question. I'll answer that by saying, like any industry, there are good and bad. One of the problems with the IT services industry is it's not regulated. So there are people out there who are very good and do a good job. There are people out there who have virtually no qualifications, no infrastructure, and we call them the cowboys. I think one of the nice things about Harvey Norman offering this service is that you're dealing with a brand that is trustworthy, and you're dealing with a brand that's not going to disappear. Now, if I had $1 for all the people I've met over the years who said, I used to have an IT person and then, they went and got a job, or they moved overseas, or they went, they disappeared for whatever reason, and they were just left in the lurch. That's never going to happen with Harvey Norman. I think the other thing that makes us different is, we've designed our process differently to most IT service providers in that we've built, enterprise grade solution in a way that we can make it available to any size business, including sole traders. Cameron's asked a question. Both Desktop Broker and AussieX Advisor trading don't allow MFA. How do we force them to? I can't answer that. I'm sorry, Cameron. That's up to those organisations. What I can say about MFA is there's lots of places you can turn it on that people don't realise. 50% of Australian businesses haven't turned on MFA for their Microsoft 365. That's crazy, because so much sensitive information goes through emails, and it's a really simple setting to turn on in your Microsoft 365. But there's other places you can turn it on. Everyone knows if your Facebook account gets hacked, it's really hard to get it sorted out. It might take 3, 4, 5 months for Facebook to take you seriously and get that sorted out. But most people don't realise you can turn on MFA for Facebook, which significantly reduces the chance of your Facebook account being hacked. And I can go on. ChatGPT. Most people don't realise you can turn on MFA for ChatGPT. I would go through everything you use, take 5 minutes to check what MFA is turned on and what MFA is not, and turn it on wherever you possibly can. I think there was another question. The AIOFP is not listed in your drop-down box for me to register. So sorry about that, Wayne. Just pick whatever you want, or pick other. I'm not sure what's on the form. Caroline will update that form today. It's a teething issue, apologies. But still submit the form and we will change it our end to AIOFP. And great to see you registering for the assessment. I hope you get a lot out of it. Good, it's optional. Wonderful. Sean has asked, you mentioned the cloud is not safe. Please explain further. What I was trying to explain there is you can't assume because everything's in the cloud that it's safe. You can certainly rely on big organisations to try and make their applications as safe as possible. I think that people like Microsoft and others, they spend millions, if not billions of dollars on cybersecurity. But all of that is useless if the criminal steals your password and your MFA token, because they don't have to breach the cloud service provider, whether that be Xero or MYOB or any of those sorts of people. But they can just log in as you. And that's the number one way that they attack people. It's called credential theft. And the way you protect against that being stolen is you implement the recommendations of the Essential 8 on your device, which then makes it much less likely that you will get attacked. I used the analogy earlier of, it's that the criminals don't go and attack the bank because it's really hard when the houses in the street have all left their door unlocked and their windows shut. If you implement all the recommendations of the Essential 8, then your house is the one in the street that's got alarms, locks, sensors, cameras, etc., etc. And as we know, if it's all too hard and there's an easier option somewhere else, the criminals will just walk past you and go and get the next one. And so you can dramatically reduce your risk by implementing the Essential 8, and that then keeps your cloud credentials safe. Ray, you've got your hand up.
It wasn't intended to be.
That's okay. That's okay. We've got a couple of minutes if there's any other questions. Otherwise, Ray, I might hand back to you.
Thanks, Rutland. And look, I hope everyone got something out of that presentation. As I said, the next one will be in September, and we'll certainly send out a diary of the future webinars. As critically important, I suggest everyone, like Wayne has decided to do, will take up that risk assessment. Extremely important to know where you sit in the scheme of things. And so thank you all for participating and joining the webinar, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Thanks very much. Thanks, Rutland, Caroline, and thanks, members. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.